This is a video for Zack Snyder and David Goyer, the director and writer of Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice. Your movie, it doesn't work. You took a bunch of great ideas and you glued them together with diarrhea shit. It doesn't work. The movie you made is basically the plot of a Saw movie. I understand what you were aiming for. It was supposed to be a love letter to DC Comics. Commendable that you pulled from so much source material. But imagine an amusement park filled with cool stuff like fun rides, roller coasters, an all-you-can-eat pizza stand, and even a blowjob booth. But in order to get from cool thing to cool thing, you have to crawl naked over broken glass, thumbtacks, and rock salt. No matter how many awesome ideas you pack into this scenario, it ends painfully. The movie you guys made just doesn't work. So, for that reason, I want to outline some ideas that would have worked a lot better. First of all, let me say, everything looked great. Special effects, costume designs, everything was really well done. The cast was good, with the exception of one person, and that is Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. I'm sure a lot of people will still be complaining about Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, and believe me, I've said my fair share of crap regarding her, but actually, she carries her own. But that Lex Luthor should have been someone else. Someone older, less zany, and Joker-esque. If you want to use him, fine. But please, downplay the zaniness and skip the hair. Just start him out as bald to begin with. What you could do is add an element of personal grievance like they did in Smallville, and, connect his hair loss to an event regarding Superman's arrival to Earth. Now, on to the meat and potatoes of this video, and that is how Superman vs. Batman Dawn of Justice should have been. The movie they should have made. The first problem arises with this title, Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice. These should just be two separate films. With that, I'm going to outline the first film that should have been released. Batman vs. Superman. Great idea to introduce these characters. Bringing in Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns was a bad idea, though. It's too soon for that story arc to work. They need to have some history in order for a big head-to-head clash like that. The first conflict that a Batman-Superman movie needs is it has to be subtle. For example, one of the greatest on-screen Batman-Superman matchups already happened 19 years ago in 1997 on the WB network, which is what it was called then, called World's Finest. It was a crossover of two popular, now iconic animated series created by Bruce Timm and Paul Dini. The plot in a nutshell was the Joker gets his hands on 20 pounds of kryptonite and travels to Metropolis and makes Lex Luthor an offer to kill Superman for $1 billion. Of course, Batman isn't far behind the Joker, and Superman being the central figure in the story, they eventually cross paths and make unlikely allies. It's extremely well written, and most importantly, it intelligently embraces the differences between the two heroes to tell a great, smooth, and cohesive story. Something that didn't exist in the Zack Snyder movie. There's a great scene in World's Finest that you can search on YouTube where Batman, the untrusting loner, judo throws Superman who interrupts him interrogating a gangster for info about the Joker. And after that, an incredulous Superman, using restraint of course, physically checks Batman into a wall. And then he uses his X-ray vision to discover his secret Bruce Wayne identity. I won't have vigilantism in my city, says Superman. But Batman, because he's a master strategist a la Sun Tzu, The Art of War, of course, catches Superman off guard with a shard of kryptonite he's hidden away in his utility belt. Naturally, because Batman would never, ever, and let me emphasize this, never, ever come to a fight unprepared. The fact that Batman catches Superman off guard at every turn is exactly what makes Batman, as a mortal man, so formidable. This shock and awe is why Superman fails to notice Batman's ninja exit from the room, which further distracts Superman from noticing the tracking device attached to his cape, and in this way Batman, through powers, air quotes, of his own, learns Superman's secret Clark Kent identity, to which Superman can only utter a bitter touche later on, standing in his apartment in acknowledgement of the man who is clearly more than an equal, if not in strength, certainly in brain power. This is a characteristic, this is This is a key characteristic of Batman. Please take notes, Hollywood. Please take notes, Hollywood. That scene is how you approach the power asymmetry between Batman and Superman. It's not a contest of strength, but of strength of personalities, unlike in Batman vs. Superman. And what furthers this complex interplay is by giving both heroes specific obstacles that force them to help each other out. This is how you further a plot, Zack Snyder and David S. Goyer. So on the one hand, we introduce Kryptonite, which squashes Superman's Goku-esque omnipotence limit. Since Superman excels in brawn and Batman in brains, giving Superman this handicap requires Superman to begrudgingly accept Batman's help. So then you create tension. So this is very important to keep a movie flowing smoothly. So even though this compromise has to take place, tension still remains, even as they cooperate. So even though they're not complete allies yet, we believe that Batman actually adds something to the partnership with Superman, and vice versa, and that they can actually complement each other. This makes their collaboration more interesting and believable. This is what we needed in Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice. Tension, clever interplay, playing off each other's unique strengths and weaknesses. But instead we get Batman trying to play on the same field as Superman in Zack Snyder's mess of a movie. Just brute force versus brute force. And it's just another reason why it doesn't work. The movie should have opened with a meeting between Lex Luthor and Amanda Waller, who's being played by Viola Davis in the Suicide Squad movie anyway. She could be saying something like, "Hey Lex, the U.S. government knows you're engaged in some shady shit, but then again, so are we. But there are new players in this game of Battlefield Earth, metahumans, right? And then, some talk of Project Cadmus, which would segue great into the formation of a Justice League. And it makes it believable why Lex would know of these other superheroes and be interested in exploiting their weaknesses. Also, we needed more emotional dynamic. I don't think I speak only for myself when I say people are tired of throwaway characters that appear out of nowhere and then get killed off or disappear like their existence means nothing. Comic books, in many ways, are essentially soap operas. So, another reason, I didn't care for this Lex. It should have been a man old enough and believable enough to have had a former relationship with Lois Lane. It wouldn't be anything new in the Superman continuity, and also it would add a lot of needed emotional animosity between Superman and Lex. Lois is the type of female who is addicted to powerful men. Adding that tension would have made the heat between the enemies even more riveting and more believable, and more palpable. We would feel it. We'd be on the edge of our seats. We'd have white-knuckle clenched teeth. Also, to that effect, such as in The World's Finest Story, they could have added Batman as the playboy he is to work his charm on Lois, like he did in that movie. Maybe it wouldn't have been that serious, or it didn't have to be such a deep angle, but it would add tension again, as it is so important, and play the angle of Batman being a master at strategy, which he is, and to a degree a master of manipulation. Also, he's a detective, which I emphasized in another video. So they could have shown that same Man of Steel scene where Bruce is there to personally witness the destructive power of Zod and Superman fight. He can see the godlike threat that these metahumans present, and he might make note of the relationship between Lois and Superman. And then also, maybe as a rich industrialist himself, they could have also had some interaction between Bruce Wayne and Amanda Waller, since she's in Suicide Squad anyway, and Batman makes a cameo in that movie anyway. She could have hinted that she was aware that he was Batman, and that would add more tension. Goddamn, it might even give him a further boost so as to form the Justice League with the others. Doomsday. They should have saved that villain. This movie should have been more about intrigue, the discovery of kryptonite, the fears of the government, the public's god/hero complex with Superman, and Superman reconciling his morality with his power. Maybe they could have had a man in a superpowered suit, but it should have been Lex or someone related to Lex, like perhaps Metallo, but definitely not Batman. Again, bring consistency and connect it to the Cadmus story arc somehow, because you need flow. You need something that helps the movie flow naturally. The thing about this movie is that it suffers from overkill left and right. Maybe they could have shoehorned in a cameo of Wonder Woman as Diana Prince, but full-on battle, they should have saved that. Again, just another thing they should have saved for another movie. If I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. Warner Brothers, spend more time building your cinematic universe and less time trying to keep up with the Marvels. Disney Marvel is the fucking tortoise, man. They're thinking about that finish line. WB is the hare. They're only thinking about opening day box office numbers. They're shooting themselves in the foot, and they're spitting in the faces of moviegoers, and especially sliding the diehards, the legit geeks, the comic lovers, even the 90s cartoon fans who make up a huge portion of those interested in these films that have more dedication to these characters than probably anyone. So, I guess to conclude, what's already done is done. But moving into the future, I sincerely hope they stop trying to pack in everything they can into 2 hours and focus on universe building, storytelling, and character development. I know they won't, though.